them take a second to introduce themselves and their specialties.
Hi, David Silverman. My background is podiatry and foot surgery from Maryland, and sold my practice and love doing this a heck of a lot better.
I'm Jerry White. My former occupation was physical therapist and coach. I coached at the international level in swimming and triathlons. Also was an adjunct professor of biomechanics and physiology. Established a human performance laboratory for the Shriners Hospital, and this is better.
And when you say former profession, that's because you're full-time with ASEA right now. I'm going to make that assumption.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Hoffman from Virginia. I'm a board-certified traditional naturopath and also a digestive health specialist in enzyme therapy, and I have some other certifications in detoxification and lymphatic therapy, and I'm a platinum distributor, and I do this full-time now. I gave up my practice.
Hi, my name's Dr. Dick Walker. How's my resonance? Pretty good? I'm from Spokane, Washington. I've been a medical doctor for 38 years. I'm board certified in internal medicine and emergency medicine. I still practice a little bit of emergency medicine. I'm more or less full-time with ASEA now, and my wife and I have been Triple Diamonds for a couple of years. So we love this business, and I think I'm changing a lot more lives this way than I am in the ER.
Hi, I'm Dr. Richard Michael. I'm from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. All right, there you go. Now I'm going to screw you up here just a little bit. I went to undergraduate at UNC and then changed to Duke for medical school. So I kind of can go both ways on the sports arena. But seriously, I've been in practice for 35 years, still practice. We have a kind of a in-betweener business. We employ over 60 people, so they're very dependent upon us making the right decisions. We have a unique practice in that we're faith-based. And I got into ASEA just a little over a year ago. And it's a blessing to be there, and I may share a little bit more.
All right, thanks so much. Now we have an idea of who we have on the stage here. We've prepared some questions for them. And I want you to remember, you've seen a few times throughout the event so far what the mix of people is like. So we're going to have a few more advanced questions, but we're also going to address some basic redox questions here on stage for those of you that are newer to the company. So I wanted to start out. Now, most of the medical experts that we have on stage are already or mostly doing ASEA, and so they may not necessarily, other than Dr. Michael and perhaps Dr. Walker a little bit, be in medical practice. But I still want to ask this question: how are you integrating ASEA products, and that can be ASEA Redox or VIA, however, into your work, into your practice if you're still practicing, and what overall impact are you seeing? So I'll let you guys kind of comment as you like. Wrestle over the microphone.
Gosh, that's a wonderful question, Becky, and I think we're at just the tip of the iceberg in really understanding what it does. And I'll give you different examples. It's a funny example, actually. Just happened this week. I saw a patient came back. Now, I get your lab work before I see you, so I already know what your labs are. You come in. I'm going to praise you because you've had an outstanding drop in your cholesterol panel. Outstanding. I mean, I give grades and try to motivate people. You've got an A++. And so I'm talking with the patient, and I'm just kind of bragging on her a little bit. I'm just saying, you know, I have to ask you an embarrassing question. Normally, I keep up with what I did last time to achieve, you know, work with you on this. And I can't find what medicine I put you on. And she said, Dr. Michael, you put me on that liquid stuff.
Oh, yay!
And so it was an amazing, and I had another one this week as well. And I checked that patient 2 different ways. And for folks who know about this, You can check particle tests, you can check ApoB levels in terms of risk factors, and then you can do a standard cholesterol panel. And she smoked it. And so, honestly, that's just one tip of the iceberg that I hadn't seen up until just recently because I hadn't been looking for that. Okay, so I'm kind of between traditional pharmaceuticals and seeing how these amazing molecules can work in the body, and it's absolutely outstanding. It's a trip for me. It's a journey that I'm just embarking on now. So it's absolutely amazing.
I never have used it in my practice because as an ER doc, our responsibility is to find out what's going on, fix it, or admit them and get them out of the ER so we can see all the other people in the waiting room. So there hasn't been a lot of time to discuss redox, but what I do tell the medical professionals that I work with in ASEA, if they want to prove to themselves that this works, is to pick out a handful of their most difficult patients and get them on ASEA. This is already clinically proven, but a lot of times they really want to see it in their own practice, and that's really the quickest way for them to do this, because every doctor has problem patients that they're doing everything they can for them, yet they're not really progressing. And a lot of times the answer is really to get them on these redox molecules and let their body do the work for them. And oftentimes that's just enough to kind of tip them over to realizing how powerful this is.
I was actually a partner in a functional medicine and neurointegration practice in 2010 when somebody first shared this with me, except at that time I was actually really interested in NRF2 function with a different product that's on the market, and I completely missed how this product involves all of that and an awful lot more. And so I turned it down at that time. Another factor was that the DO that was my partner was not interested in network marketing within a traditional practice. So I was lucky that it came around again in 2017. And at that time the gel had come on the market, which I didn't see in the first time. And that piece of it was so impactful for me that it was really interesting to take into the practice and just start to get validation from different clients who had things that hurt. And once I saw how quickly we could get a benefit with something that was non-toxic, it was a no-brainer for me to add that into my practice, because at that point I had sold my interest in my other practice and I was building a solo practice. So I had a lot more flexibility. And I looked at the liquid, but initially wasn't certain how to position this in my practice. I did a lot of nutritional work and didn't know whether I really wanted another product. But I did target a few people who were chronically challenged with maybe autoimmune issues, sleep, fatigue, cognitive difficulties, and suggested to them that maybe they would embark upon this for 3 months and see if this was the key that would unlock healing that had not been able to happen in another way. And it was that big shift in watching how quickly someone who'd been suffering for 30 years turned their life around in 30 days that was the big aha, and so it just became an obvious thing. But I really still put it out much more to friends and family than outside of my practice, and it spread so organically and so quickly that within 6 months it became obvious to me that I could definitely impact a lot more people doing ASEA than I could seeing them in my practice on a one-on-one basis.
The big difference in how I changed practice when I saw ASEA was I looked at my Social Security thing that they do that says when you retire you're going to have this much. In my taxable Social Security, the last year I worked in physical therapy and teaching at the university, I'd have to work for 17 years to do in that what I did last year in ASEA. So I think there's an important factor for physicians and physical therapists to consider in their long-term strategies at home.
So I was at a practice when I started with ASEA, but 2 points if you're a doctor here or you're talking to doctors. One is every state has different regulations on what you can market within the practice, and I just always recommend if a doctor is going to use it in their practice, and they usually feel obligated to do that they protect themselves. It could be as simple as having a disclaimer saying, you know, Dr. Silverman told me about this product, ASEA. It's a redox signaling supplement. He said it's not a drug. He said it will not cure, heal, treat any disease. I'm willingly ordering this product. He said that there's a business opportunity. He refused to talk to me about that at this point. And I know that Dr. Silverman will profit from me ordering this. Have them sign the thing, and if a disgruntled child of an older patient comes in and says, you took advantage of my father, it's like, well, here it is, you know, and they go to the board, or vice versa, a younger person and a parent or whatever. So it's good to protect yourself from the beginning. We don't think about those things, but there are a lot of like nasty, ignorant people out there that could possibly come after you, and who knows, I don't know what your state is like, that's one. Secondly, I have a doctor in Annapolis, Dr. Frank Malagrano, who, you know, patients, you all sit in a waiting room, right? I just said y'all, I can't believe that. Thanks a lot, Lena. Hot damn. All right. But he has a flat screen in his office, and he has a product, not business videos, but product loop playing, and a little display, and they always ask him what it is. And it's pretty cool having the power of telling it. Doctors don't have time, but train somebody at the front to answer questions and have them put the gel on, because 9 out of 10 times if they're hurting, we know what happens.
Yeah. Awesome, fantastic, thanks. All right, thanks for all those answers. Very interesting and diverse set of answers to that question. Let's move on. I want to ask this one because this is one that we always get. What is your simple explanation about redox messaging? What's the simple way to explain what that is without diving into a very technical explanation? So let's start on this end and work that way.
So I shot a little video. You know, it's all about using tools. So what I'm going to say here, it's in a 10-minute video. And if you just go to whyitspossible.com, people want to know how could it work for lung problems and brain problems and eye problems, sleeping problems, mood problems? How is that possible? Well, just say, why don't we play this 10-minute video, whyitspossible.com? And look, there's a lot that this product does with glutathione and turning genes on and keeping genes turned on as we age so they don't turn off. But the simple explanation I like to give people is that any issue in the body, it's an issue with cells that have gone bad. And for instance, you know, we're always damaging cells. I'm listening to Kara. I've got my tailbone shoved so far up against the back of this chair, I'm damaging cells here. And I'm turning my head really well around here. But you know, if you got good cells, things are functioning well. If you got a bad cell, then the immune system has to get rid of it and turn it into a good cell. And the immune system is either going to signal the cell to repair itself, or the immune system is going to come down and get rid of it, right? And the way the immune system even gets the call that knows that there's a problem in my prostate or my tailbone or wherever it is, it gets a signal. And the signal is sent by the adjacent cells that say, hey, Dave, he's got some cells that are really being damaged here, or it's mutating or whatever it is, and the signal goes to the immune system. Redox molecules amplify the signal. That's the simplest way. So it doesn't matter if it's a brain cell, retina cell, prostate cell, breast cell, makes no difference. Children have more. I like to hold a bottle up and say, children have a lot of these, and then as we get older, we produce less and less, and the signal goes down. And then the bad cells remain, and if they're mutating, then you got a real problem, right? But all you're doing when you drink ASEA is you're raising the levels back up and the signal goes up. Now, that's really simplified, I understand that. All of you, I understand it's simplified, but it's something that people get their head around because they don't know what EGR1 gene is, they don't know these things, but it's a simple way to explain it, I think.
Yeah.
I was asked one time to explain it simply, and since it worked for Terry Latham, I think it'll get the rest of it.
That's pretty simple.
So if you imagine that the factories that make the energy in your body, there's a whole bunch of them in every single cell. And just like the Department of Motor Vehicles samples the exhaust on your truck when you want to get a new sticker on it for emissions, it can tell how efficiently that truck is running by those exhaust molecules. Now, if I held up both of my hands, and each one of my hands represents an inkjet printer with the colors of the inkjet printer, so each of my fingers are like the inkjet wells in the inkjet printer. And over time, the kids get in the back room just before Valentine's Day, and which color is going to be missing from your inkjet printer tomorrow? So let's take the red down to a certain level. If the communication that's required to send the signals, receive the signals, and do all the many, many things that that cell has to decide upon is missing red, it's missing a number of different things that it could normally signal. What if we could just call these reducers and these oxidizers, and we could go in and pop the top, and then go and pump it back up and fill it up to normal? Then it could start signaling what's actually going on instead of what it thought was going on, and it repairs the process.
Those were amazing explanations. So I don't think there's an awful lot for me to really add, given that you've done something amazing there. Other than, obviously, those of us who've been in ASEA a while would know that the ASEA via are the nutrients and the materials for building the body. And these are cell signaling, and they represent the labor and the inspectors to make sure that the work that gets done accurately and efficiently. And so it's really just like having a house. You know, we talk about and we see those visuals on a lot of these slides in presentations, that you know, you can deliver that material, but if we don't have anybody turn up on the job site, the house is not going to get built. So that's a great one. And using tools, I think, is really the best way when this is a highly technical thing. We don't want to be scientific. You don't want to be us. We don't want to be us. So use those things. A quick draw ASEA via, little quick draw ASEA video is a great way of showing people visually something that's a little bit more complex.
Dr. Michaels, I don't think we have much left to say, but you know, I start a little more basic, and listen, I want all of you to understand that you don't even have to understand most of what we're talking about up here. But most people don't really realize how powerful their bodies are at the cellular level at repairing all kinds of really nasty problems and at even preventing them in the first place. So I start out the conversation with saying, do you know how powerful your body is at protecting and repairing at the cellular level from even really nasty things? And I might be sitting there talking to somebody who I know is very ill. And I tell them that those mechanisms are very powerful. Within the last 20 years, we've learned a lot about how that works. And this company has discovered a way to make an essential ingredient in that process. And it really doesn't matter what's wrong with that person. Everything that goes wrong with the human body has a cellular basis. It all starts with cells, and our bodies are made up of trillions of cells. And every second there are millions of chemical reactions going on in those cells, and all of those reactions are in one way or another dependent on redox signaling molecules for coordination. So I say that whole system just falls apart and falls into chaos when you don't have enough of these, and that's why you get sick. And if you just drink this stuff a couple times a day, you can turn chaos into order, and guess what you're going to have happen over the next 2, 3, 4 months if you try this product. Your body's going to come into balance, your cells are going to get healthy, and you're going to feel a lot better. So I'd recommend that you try it.
I think Dr. Walker is true. He's very, very accurate in terms of what's left for me to say. I may repackage it a little bit. If you have a cell phone, take it out, hold it up high. Hold it up high. Want to see it. Okay, very, very good. Interesting. Okay, that's an amazing piece of equipment, isn't it? It can do an awful lot. Sports scores, weather forecasts, tell you where your restaurant is, communicate with people all around the world. It's an amazing piece of instrumentation, isn't it? Your body's made up of over 70 trillion of those guys. Those are your cells. Now they're clustered into different groupings: eye, brain, kidney, liver, lungs. They have different functionality, but as has already been said, at a very basic level, where they operate and where they operate well, it's based on this biochemistry. And the crazy thing is that you can be a very, very uber healthy person, but if you stress your body as an athlete, you're going to require some repair. Those signals aren't going to work quite as well. They're going to be confused. Redox, our products help those people. What about aging? We're all aging in this room. Some worse than others, but seriously, for every decade we're losing 10%. So as we get older, how are you going to make up that difference? You know, there are parts of your cell, of your instrumentation you were just holding up, that if you don't have the proper signal, certain key elements of that won't work very well. Now you might be able to text, but you can't do the other functions very well, can you? Do you know that Redox, our product, the only company in the world, the only place you can get this to try to make up that deficit is right here with ASEA. It's an amazing opportunity. This is what jazzes me so much, because I didn't know about this product over a year ago. This guy played a big role in it, in helping me to, you know, when I first heard of Redox, I was shuddering. I'm going to tell you. He was on the Zoom. My son-in-law over there, my grandkids were involved with difficult medical issues. And even my alma mater didn't have any answers. But fortunately, ASEA did. And ASEA continues to have answers for them. So I can tell you all about the biochemistry. I can give you an example of how it works, but I have personal examples of how it works. I've been amazed to see how it works as well in many, many instances. So we're blessed to have this. I think the combination of the ASEA Via line is incredible when it's paired with the molecule.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I always appreciate the personal emotion that gets invested into this. I think it's phenomenal. Thanks, all of you. Okay, so next question. This will be our last question, but we're going to let everybody have a minute to answer it. I want to talk about ASEA Via, because I know there are lots of people that have been having some great experiences with it, and I actually have a personal conviction that paired with ASEA Redox, we get an amazing synergy that produces results that are unparalleled. So I want to ask you all about your experience with ASEA Via, and I want to couple that with another question, because we get this a ton, and that's about recommendations on dosing. So comment on how you recommend people take ASEA Redox, if it's different than what's on the bottle. And then how do you integrate ASEA Via with that? And then if you want to add any comments on Via, you're welcome to do that as well. So yeah, go ahead kind of as you're ready.
So first of all, nutrition is critical, and I'm not a nutritional expert, but I know how critical it is. Facts tell and stories sell. You know, I can tell you that since starting Biome.
Okay, this is where the personal comments can stop.
No, I'm not gonna get graphic. I'll just tell you, I've had a problem for 20 years, and you have to put it together. But we save a boatload of money on toilet paper in my house now. I'm telling you, it changed my life, and I'm talking about one day. It shocked me. It's like, okay, it's nutritionals, and I've taken probiotics and prebiotics that did nothing, right? And I took that, and I am stunned. And I hear the most amazing stories of people they're on everything, and then they add Life Max, and all of a sudden, like I heard someone say, their skin got better. Some people, they focus more. Some people have more energy. Alan Noble is flipping out about Life Max. And I just have to say, we need nutritionals. And from a business perspective, you should be on nutritionals. And from a health perspective, business perspective, be on, there's nothing better than this. There may be something that might be as good or close to as good. 95%, she's the expert, will tell you, most of it is just probably one of the reasons I was using so much toilet paper all the time, to tell you the truth. That's all I got to say.
I've done a few of these panels, and I've sat next to David before, and I can attest that he's much more pleasant to sit next to than I'm going to defer the question about dosing to Dr. Walker. We go back and forth a lot on these kinds of issues, and I think he's got some very, very good answers and some personal experience. One of our personal experiences, I think of it in this way. If we're short on this communication, there are many of the alarms and bells and whistles that don't go off within a cell, and it can just keep doing wrong over and over again. When we add back enough of this signaling communication, it's aware that it's doing wrong. So then it starts a process to repair, and it needs to look around and find the pieces to work with, and that is the nutrition. We used to send people out and say, generally go find nutrition. And nobody agrees on anything in nutrition. And you read one and then another, and they're all back and forth. You can spend all kinds of money. So it took the brilliant people that could formulate this to work together with the ASEA, the Align and the ASEA redox. And in our family, that made, we got these sports watches. Both of us do triathlons, and so we compare our stuff all day. And one of the most interesting things is it monitors your sleep and the depth of your sleep. And one of the things that we found was, especially with Marcia, it was obvious, but with her it was overwhelming. There's a section in there that looks at how deep you sleep and how long you stay in deep sleep at night. She was under 5 minutes most of the time for an entire 7 or 8 or 9 hours of sleep. And once we started on the source, she started noticing on her watch that she went over an average of over 56 minutes in deep sleep.
Wow. Fantastic.
I'm actually glad that they brought Via out, because I had some really interesting conversations with David about his bowel habits before that.
Thank you.
Love you. A couple of things. I've been in nutrition for 20 years, and so I was a little nervous when I was told that they were going to be bringing out a nutritional line, because I work only with clinical level products that are not ones that you can purchase over the counter. And so they meet the same standards that we apply to everything that we do here in ASEA with validation and third-party testing. I will tell you that this is a phenomenal product line. Via is equal to anything that I have had in my practice. It meets every standard of quality in terms of organic choice of products, manufacturing, just every single aspect was there. So I've been really proud to know that I can actually say to people, this is a great product line that you can use. I would like for a second though to talk about the dosing side of it, because unlike to my right and to my left, I sit with anybody else here who is not a licensed medical professional. And even as a classical naturopath, I am also restricted by certain legal requirements, because dosing is actually only something you can do if you're a licensed medical professional. So I like to encourage people to sit in safety, look at the bottle. You can start by talking about what you did. I followed what's on the bottle. It's a great recommendation. On the bottle it suggests 2 ounces twice a day. That's a great place to start. And I tell people also that I listened to the stories of how a lot of people would talk about the Magic 8 and the changes that came about. And so after a while, seeing some changes, I was curious to see if 8 ounces would make a difference for me. And then I can tell my story about how that works. That is all totally legal. and no one is being what we aren't supposed to be if you're not a medical professional. But just talk about also encouraging people to benchmark. David has a great benchmarking thing. We have it online as well. That if people tune into every aspect of their life, not just the main thing that they're looking for, because we're rather like an iceberg. What's going on below the surface is a lot greater than what we see above. And those things with names are the things that pop above the water surface. But we don't know what's happening below. So just encourage people to know that this has safety studies. It's entirely safe. We can drink as much of it as we want. There is no toxicity, right? You can't be allergic to something that you're producing and is native to your cells, so there's no allergic potential, and there are no drug interactions. So we have a really safe and wonderful product that encourages people to tune into what their body needs. And I think if we are the type of people that we are, we can help encourage people to find what they need for their optimal health, and that we're all going to be different. So what works for me and helps me find optimal health is not necessarily that works for somebody else. So play around with it. If you don't get what you need from 4 ounces, then just drink more and see where you go.
Thank you. In addition to having those magic initials behind my name, MD, which I can pretty much recommend anything I want to. When I first got involved with the SIA, I was mystified as to why it said 2 to 4 ounces, because it also, I knew that it was totally safe and you could drink as much as you wanted to without any side effects or ill effects. And I started to run into people that were on the 4 ounces and it wasn't working. And and I also have a background in nutrition that I forgot to mention. I have a master's degree in preventive medicine, and a lot of that was nutrition. So I'm one of those unusual MDs that does actually understand nutrition. So I thought, well, you know, why stop at 4 ounces? And so my wife and I both started at 8 ounces because I was over 60, I was pushing 65, and I knew that my production of these molecules was already way behind what I wanted it to be. And so I started at 8 ounces. My wife started at 8 ounces. She had a medical condition that caused her to ache and be sore all the time and chronic fatigue, and even 8 ounces didn't work for her. We had a brief conversation with Gary Samuelson, and he says, why don't you try 8 ounces twice a day? And within a couple of weeks, that condition turned around. So that was really strong reinforcement to my opinion that if you're not getting the results that you want with 4 ounces, take more. And so I came up with a basic sort of formula that if you're 50, and I've kind of moved this age back to 40 because of our DNA study, but if you're in that 40 to 50 year age range, or younger, then 4 ounces may be enough for you. And if not, increase the dose. If you're over 40 or 50, by all means go ahead and try 4 ounces, but quickly, if you aren't getting the responses that you want, then bump that up to 8 or even more, but do it incrementally. If you're really impatient, do it quickly, because I know that if you're impatient and you're not having a response, you're going to quit, and you may quit before this really kicks into the point that you realize how amazing it can be for your health. So don't give up on this stuff. The major variables are how much you take and how often you take it. And because we know that your body does a lot of it, I'm trying to do the 3 to 5 seconds and move my head around, but when my mouth gets to working, my neck forgets to turn. But anyway, where was I? Anyway, if you're not getting a result, take more. How often you should take it. Don't just take it once a day. We know that your body is busy doing lots of things during the daytime when you're up and awake. It does most of your cellular healing when you're asleep at night. So you need to take an evening dose. If it keeps you awake a little bit, then don't take it right at bedtime, but the best time, I think, to take your evening dose is right at bedtime. If you tend to get up during the night for any other reason, I keep a pouch by my bedside and take an extra couple of ounces in the middle of the night. Regarding VIA, I'm a nutritionist. We need nutrition. You don't get the amount of nutrition that you need for optimal health in your diet, even if you're eating organic and eating as good as you can. Even the nutritional community can't decide whether fats or carbohydrates are the problem for our obesity epidemic, but certainly a lack of micronutrients can contribute to that. ASEA has a wonderful line of micronutrient supplements. My favorite one is the Life Max, and I'll tell you, Probably some of you can empathize with this, but do you ever have an episode where you go into a room and you get there and you can't realize why you went there? You know, you went to get something, a pair of socks or something, your checkbook or whatever, and you get there and say, what the heck am I doing here? I don't have those anymore, and I think it's the Life Max that's doing that for me. So that happens to be my favorite nutritional thing.
We've got like 1 minute.
1 minute?
1 minute.
Oh boy, okay. Real quickly, my favorite, I'm wearing a purple shirt, if you can't tell. Biome. And let me tell you a real quick story. I was on a missions trip at the end of October to Israel. Lady's getting off the plane. She's a big woman. I've never met her before. She was on our team. She's barely getting through the airport. She's limping badly, very badly. The next day in Jerusalem, it's up and down, steps, steps, steps. I was her crutch that day. Well, I got to know her really well. That night, went back to the room and said, look, I want to give you something. I want you to try something. See if it'll help you. It was, what was it? Renew 28. Renew 28. Folks, all right, there's 3 ladies over here. She's over there. I told her how to put it on. They were very interested. What is this? What is this? So I'm talking to them a little bit about the basic stuff. And all of a sudden, she's over there flipping her knee like this. Boom, 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 boom. I said, what are you doing, Carol? She said, well, it doesn't hurt anymore. I said, you're going to hyperextend your knee, and then we'll have another problem. All right, I learned during that trip with her that she's a big woman. She's going to have bariatric surgery in March. I said, you know, you do have to lose weight. You have to document that you can lose weight for them to approve you. She said, yeah, I do. I said, do you have a plan? Well, not exactly. I said, look, I want to show you how I think we can combine some things to get you to where you need to be for that day. And she was all in. I mean, she wanted me to order the product while I was in Israel, you know. I said, no, let me get back to the States. She texted me back. I told her, you know, take the liquid ASEA, combine the purple ones. She texts me back at the end of the first week. She says, I've lost 9 pounds. And she's continued to lose some weight as well. So she is, you know, she's referring her elder in her church and some other people, but she's convinced. And I'm going to tell you, I've seen this play out. Again, we haven't had this available to us to utilize. So I'm on the learning curve. I bought a nutrition book. I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get to the flow part of the chart, you know, and I'm struggling, but I'm trying. And that's what I did when I first learned about the whole product line anyway, was to learn. And so I'm excited about that combination in particular, and I'm sure nobody else in this audience wants to lose weight, so it may not apply to you.
All right, everybody, let's give these guys a round of applause to thank them for being with us